Hi there, I'm Vincent and I provide dating and self-improvement advice. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing dumper regret triggers. I provide audio coaching to help people try and get their ex back or get a new girlfriend or boyfriend. Check out my website for more details. www.dateme.tips. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. So now let's get back into today's podcast, and today we are discussing dumper regret triggers. So if you have been dumped and want to try to get your ex back, you might be wondering if your ex will ever feel regret. In today's podcast, I'm going to be discussing 3 triggers which can cause dumper regret. So let's get straight into this. And number 1 is dumpee living life. So if you're a dumpee, you've been dumped, you're thinking to yourself, life is bad, life is terrible, I'm never going to feel happiness again. Probably the last thing you're focusing on right now is living your best life, because you're probably thinking, I can't live my best life. My former partner was my best life. I have been dumped. A breakup has taken place. I will never feel happiness again. My happiness was connected to my former partners. You're probably thinking that you will never feel fulfilled again. But let me tell you, if you want to try to get your ex back, then you need to be living your life to the full. You need to be creating a situation where your dumper is looking on from a distance and thinking, wow, they're living their life to the full. Perhaps they didn't need me. Perhaps I wasn't so great. Perhaps they're better off without me. And this is where regret can start to kick in. So if you're a dumpee and you're focusing on living your life because you don't want your ex back, then obviously you can see why that is the thing to do. But if you do want your ex back, it can seem quite counterintuitive to be living a life focusing on yourself and new people rather than your ex. But as I've just explained, if you focus on your own journey, if you make new connections, if you join new classes, groups and clubs, if you go on different dates with different people, then you will be living a life where your ex, the dumper, might become envious of. So at this stage you might be thinking, well, how will my dumper even know that I'm living my life to the full? And of course, you don't want to be texting your ex. You don't want to be contacting your dumper and saying, hey, look at me, I'm living my life. I mean, not only would that be completely ridiculous, but of course, that would mean you'd be breaking no contact. And if you want to try to get your ex back, I strongly suggest you implement my version of a no contact rule and don't break it. If you want to learn more about my version of a no contact rule, then please check out my playlist on my YouTube channel entitled The No Contact Rule and listen to the content all of the way through so you can fully immerse yourself in my version of a rule, because it does differ with some of the other versions that you can find online, and you will fully understand why I believe that my version of no contact will give you the best possible chance of success. But as I've just deviated, let's just go back to the point. You don't want to be contacting your ex because you'll be breaking no contact. And it would also be ridiculous if you contacted your ex and said, hey, look at me, look at my life. It's obviously a very fake situation. You don't want to be living a life where you're trying to live it for your ex. You've got to be living it for you. And hence you're wondering, well, how will my dumper even find out? Well, look, exes, dumpers, they have an uncanny ability to somehow find out about these type of things, whether it's friends of friends, whether it's family members speaking to each other, whether it's via social media. There are many possible ways that a dumper can find out about their dumpee, even if there is no direct contact. So of course this can't be guaranteed. But what I can say is that if you live your life to the full, there is every chance that your ex, the dumper, will find out that you are living a positive life. And if you live a positive life, if you move forward, making new connections, doing the right things, joining new classes, groups and clubs, living a life where you are really pushing forward every single day. If and when your dumper finds out about this is when they will likely be comparing their current situation to yours. And if you are moving forward and improving every single day, then your dumper will probably be thinking to themselves, look, they are living a life which is so full of happiness, fulfillment and excitement, and I'm not part of it. They didn't do this when I was with them. Maybe there's something wrong with me. My life doesn't look as exciting as theirs is right now. Maybe I was wrong. And this can be one of the potential triggers to cause dumper regret. So now let's get into point number 2 and the second point of today's podcast about dumper regret triggers. And point number 2 is dumpy improvements. So I touched upon it there in point number 1, but on point number 1 we was focusing about the dumpy living their life, moving forward, doing their own thing, making new connections. Point number 2 is more focusing on the dumpy improvements. So as I said, a dumpy could join classes, groups and clubs. And when you join these clubs, these classes and these groups, you will be improving your skill set. Whether it is because you are joining a class where you learn a certain academic skill qualification, whether it is because you are learning how to improve your health and fitness, maybe it's just somewhere that you meet socially, you are improving your social skills. All of these things are improvements. You need to be living your life so that every single day you are improving. Become a better person today than you were yesterday, a better person tomorrow than you are currently today. And by the same virtue of how a dumper will likely find out about your life that I mentioned in point number 1, point number 2 is the same. If you're going through improvements, if you're posting on social media, if your friends and family know about these things, your expert dumper is likely somehow, some reason to find out that you are making improvements. And if you're making improvements, then you are becoming closer to a version 2.0 of yourself. When your ex ended the relationship, you were version 1. You were dumped for being the version 1 of yourself. If you are clearly a version 2.0, if you are somebody who is healthier, fitter, more physically attractive, if you are somebody who can now speak a new language, if you are somebody who now has a new academic qualification and is pushing forward getting a new job, if you're someone who is starting a new business, if you are somebody who is better than you were yesterday, then you are more attractive than you were yesterday, then you are more attractive than when you were dumped. And if and when your dumper finds out that you are a version 2.0 of yourself, they will likely feel regret. If only I'd stuck with my dumpy longer, if only I'd given them another chance, if only I hadn't have ended this relationship so soon, I may have seen this person blossom into the flower they are now, into the spectacular new version of themselves, and instead I let them go. And I shouldn't have done. This can cause dumper regret. A dumper will regret not seeing the version 2.0 of yourself in the flesh. They lived with version 1 and now they are looking on with envy at the version 2.0 of the dumpy, and they can't be with them right now because they ended the relationship. And this type of mindset can really alter the dumper thoughts and feelings and start to generate dumper regret in their mind. So now let's get into point number 3 and the final point of today's podcast about dumper regret triggers. And point number 3 is life not going to plan. So this is focusing on the dumper. And if the dumper's life is not going to plan, this is a dumper regret trigger. When somebody ends a relationship, they want to go on their own path. They believe that they will be more fulfilled on their own journey. At this stage, they enter what I like to refer to as the single honeymoon period, where somebody will live the life that they was unable to when they was in a relationship. This might be dating new people, this might be doing activities that possibly their former partner didn't like. Whatever the scenario, when somebody ends a relationship, they will live the single honeymoon period where everything feels new, exciting and fresh. But guess what? Everything which is new eventually becomes old. Everything which is exciting eventually becomes mundane. And once the single honeymoon period has expired, which generally takes 6 months or so, of course it differs somewhat from person to person, but after a number of months of living this life, it no longer seems as exciting. Going on dates with new people that don't go anywhere suddenly becomes tiresome. The understanding that making a positive long-term connection is difficult becomes a challenge in their mindset. A dumper will start to self-reflect. They will look in the mirror physically and metaphorically and say to themselves, this is not the life I envisioned. I am not as happy as I thought. Okay, I was in a relationship where things weren't looking so great at some point, but now I'm on my own and things aren't looking so great at some point. Now things aren't looking great and I'm alone. So not only am I not feeling fulfilled, but I'm also lonely. This is classic dumper regret trigger. This is a trigger when you look in the mirror physically and metaphorically and your life isn't going how it was, that you reflect, you look backwards to your past and you do wonder, did you make the right decision? You was with somebody who loved you, you decided to end that relationship, go on your own path, and you are still not happy, but now you are not happy and you are alone without somebody who loves you. So in this position, the dumper can easily feel regret. And if you're a dumpy and thinking, my ex will never self-reflect, let me tell you, every dumper will come to a point in their life where they self-reflect. Now look, there is no 100% guaranteed way to get your ex back, and not every dumper will contact their ex again. But what I can say is that they will think about their past, they will reflect, and they will understand that this is the life they have chosen in comparison to the life that they decided to leave. And even if the dumper doesn't come back to the dumpy, they would at least think back to their decisions and really consider, did they make the right one? So will your ex definitely come back to you? Look, I can't say that, but will your ex definitely consider the past, definitely wonder whether they made the right decision? Yes, they will. They will reflect, they will wonder, and they will come to a conclusion at the moment of them thinking about it, whether it was right or not. Sometimes a dumper will self-reflect, think, you know what, I'm still going to continue with the single life. And then they reflect once more a few months later, and then they reach out to their dumpy. Some dumpers will say that they considered reaching out to their dumpy a few times before they were genuinely ready. You never know what the future holds, but what we can say is that if a dumper's life isn't going to plan, that is another dumper regret trigger. If you believe that this podcast has helped you, then please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description.
Yeah, if you miss your ex, we can help with that. Help you get him back, or we can help find you someone else. Yeah, Vincent, the relationship coach, giving you some insight, bringing you a new approach. DateMe.tips, go and check the site, giving you advice, helping with your love life. Get your ex back, or move to the next. Ain't no sweat, you know Vincent got you. Finding love ain't no problem. Yeah, DateMe.tips, check it out now.